After the very significant military gains, the military triumph of Operation Sindoor, the Modi government is now unveiling a diplomatic blitzkrieg and focusing on its message in capitals around the world, especially the Western world, where the media and some of the governments have displayed either ignorance, insularity, or arrogance. But in the announcement of the multi-party delegations that will be carrying the message of Operation Sindoor all across the world, a degree of domestic politics has broken out here at home, which is unfortunate because the one thing we have seen through these last few difficult days is how united the country has stood as one. These politics erupted after it was announced that Shashi Tharoor, who has been one of the most effective voices for India on the global stage when it comes to Operation Sindoor, will be one of the opposition MPs leading the delegation. And in fact, he's been chosen to lead the multi-party delegation to the United States of America. I'm Barkha Dutt. You're with the Mojo Story. The announcement by the Modi government that Shashi Tharoor would be among members of parliament, these are all multi-party, cross-party delegations, that Tharoor would be leading one such delegation to the United States of America, was welcomed by most Indians but made the Congress unhappy. It transpires that Kiren Rijiju, the Parliamentary Affairs Minister, had a conversation with the Congress President and asked for their names. The names submitted by the Congress party did not include Shashi Tharoor or Manish Tiwari, two of the most vocal members of Parliament from the Congress on this issue. The Congress then accused the BJP of trying to politicize the moment. In the meantime, Shashi Tharoor said he accepted and said it would be an honor to represent India as part of this delegation. There are, of course, other members as well. Several of them are from the BJP or from allies like the Shiv Sena Eknath Shinde faction. You can see those names on your screen. Supriya Sule is also among them. And also today, Asaduddin Owaisi confirmed that he too will be part of these delegations, as will be Ghulam Nabi Azad. We are told that Congress leader Salman Khurshid was approached but said to the government that he would need his party's go-ahead to begin with. Today, we talk about the Modi government's messaging, the decision to send these multi-party delegations, the Congress's self-goal in not themselves saying that Shashi Tharoor and Manish Tiwari should be on their list, the Congress's allegation that politics are being played with this moment, and also Donald Trump's obsessive focus in irritating us, riling us. How should he be handled? A lot to talk about. We'll also have reactions from Yashwant Deshmukh's C voter on how people are responding to everything that's happened before and after the ceasefire. I use the word ceasefire loosely. Trump calls it the ceasefire. India technically calls it only an understanding, a pause in hostilities. I want to introduce our guests now as we look at the larger messaging. Yashwant Deshmukh, who of course leads C voter, is with us. Yashwant, welcome to the program. Military veteran General Dhruv Katoch is with us. Always a pleasure to have you with us, sir. Padma Rao, veteran journalist, is with us. Welcome back, Padma. Rajat Sethi is with us, political analyst, somebody who expressed very strong opinions after the ceasefire was declared, but has since then responded very favorably to Prime Minister's two speeches. And also, of course, joining us is Mahima Singh, the Congress today not including Shashi Tharoor and Manish Tiwari in their own list and complaining when those names, when Tharoor's name in particular was announced by the government. So welcome everybody. I want to start by playing out for you what Shashi Tharoor said to me well before he was asked to do this. When I asked him how he thought he emerged as one of the most effective faces, I was still on the ground in Punjab, and this is what he said to me. How do you see all this attention on Shashi Tharoor speaking for India?
Barkha, I'm an Indian first and foremost, and everything else follows. You know, we all have multiple identities, but above all, these identities are possible and safe and secure because I'm Indian. I mean, that's the sheltering carapace under which I'm also everything else that I might be. And therefore, for me, when it's a question of my country's national security, nothing comes ahead of that. And I'm very, very proud to respond when people ask me to speak. I wasn't asked by the government to do that. I was asked by channels around the world who wanted an Indian voice, and I understood the importance of putting across our point of view in many of these audiences. And I'm very pleased that those people at home, and more important, perhaps those people abroad who've seen it, have got the message.
All right, let me start actually with Rajat Sethi, if I can, and then I'll come to some of Yashwant's numbers. Rajat, I wasn't trying to say that you were in any way a critic of what had happened. I was just saying that you reflected the anxieties of a lot of Indians across political affiliations when there was this sense that, why do we have this halt in hostilities? Since then, of course, Prime Minister, Defense Minister, Prime Minister went to Adhampur base, he addressed the nation. Rajnath Singh's gone to Bhuj, he's gone to Kashmir, and it has become clear, it is now officially stated that Operation Sindoor is not over. This is a pause. And it has been made very clear that the new doctrine will mean kinetic action if there is an attempt by Pakistan to do this again. But now comes the messaging. The messaging is not for whom. I think 99% of Indians, let's forget the 1% naysayers, they don't count. 99% of Indians are on the same page here. But the way some of the Western media outlets, the way some of the Western governments have reacted leaves a lot to be desired, which is why I think this multi-party outreach. What do you think of it?
Good evening, Barkha ji, and to all the fellow panelists. I think instead of sequential planning of first doing the military ops and then thinking about the communication, it should have been a parallel exercise. And this is where, and I've been pretty vocal about it, that barring a few diplomats, the other diplomats weren't vocal. It was their principal job and responsibility to reach out to the Le Mondes and the Washington Post and the New York Times in their respective areas of jurisdiction to actually go out and put out a perspective. If an Indian ambassador or an Indian high commissioner calls up to present India's point of view, I am quite sure that most of these channels would have opened doors and allowed them to present their voice. So I think the problem that happened, in my assessment, happened right during those 4 or 5 days when India was in deep crisis. The amount of heavy lifting that our armed forces were doing, our diplomats outside our country were not doing. Again, Vikram Misri and others, I'm not talking about them. They were in the helm of affairs. They were doing everything. But there had to be greater, much more stronger response to remove the hyphenation that was being inserted. Now, you can't leave everything to Prime Minister Modi to remove every hyphen that has been put out in every single newspaper around the world. That is asking too much. You require ambassadors who can do that job. When these bureaucratic ambassadors failed, I think that gap had to be filled in by more emphatic voices. And I think that is where comes in Shashi Tharoor, Manish Tiwari, who've been pretty eloquent about India's position. The kind of facts and figures that they have put forth on the table were pretty good, pretty interesting. I can tell you that you will encounter adverse media, be it out of sheer ignorance or out of deliberate sort of putting India down. I have myself gone on Al Jazeera, and I can tell you the kind of condescending tone that they had for India through and through is something which is deeply troubling. I mean, we at best can present our best foot forward, but I'm sure that this tinkering around their attitude towards India and the geopolitical conditions would require sustained efforts. Therefore, I welcome what government has done. They have crossed the party lines on this, and they have made an overture. Now, the problem is Congress's perpetual pettiness. When will they, for once, come out of it and allow merit be the sole determinant of people who can go out and represent India? Which other of those 4 names that Congress actually proposed wrote even a tweet? Forget about writing good articles. Had they even tweeted properly? Why on earth should they be the voices of India, not of Congress party, by the way, to go out and represent my country? See, this is where consecutively it always happens. These princelings who feel insecure that what if a Shashi Tharoor goes out, possibly the Congress party might gravitate to. This is sheer pettiness, nothing more than that. Instead of welcoming, they're creating roadblocks on this.
So before I get Mahima and everybody else to respond, I do agree with you about the bias in Western media. Padma and I have been comparing notes on this. Padma actually walked out of writing for a German media outlet because of the sheer exasperation of how they were behaving. I appeared on more than one show, and on the Piers Morgan show, I actually completely lost it, not just with the Pakistan former foreign minister Hina Rabani Khan, but with the anchor himself, who came in poorly prepared, poorly researched, and presented this as a dispute between two countries. And I actually told him, we're so bored of you all and your both sidism. So I couldn't agree with you more on the first part. On the second part, I want Mahima ji to come in from the Congress party. Mahima, look, I've seen Jairam Ramesh's statement that Kiren Rijiju called Mr. Kharge, had a conversation with Mr. Rahul Gandhi. The party was asked for names. The party submitted 4 names. In the meantime, the allegation from the Congress is that the government approached Shashi Tharoor, Salman Khurshid, and Manish Tiwari directly. My question is, chalo maan liya BJP played a smart politics here with the Congress. Couldn't the Congress preempt that and simply put on your list actually the people who have been the most effective voices, which are Shashi Tharoor and Manish Tiwari? I mean, it is a no-brainer, surely. अब आपकी तरफ से ही आता तो बेहतर लगता than the way it is playing out now, Mahima ji.
Jai Hind. Now, would the government decide which are the best voices in the Congress, Barkha? And I would say that Jairam Ramesh ji has rightly put it out that the BJP and Mr. Modi are playing Narad Muni politics in this country. Why do the sham of writing to the opposition or soliciting a response from the opposition when you've already made up your mind? Why put up that sham? Why not come clean in your intentions as well as actions? See, we came together with the government. We came together with Modi government right at the outset of this, this whole the situation that came to face our country. But the government has thoroughly and consistently acted otherwise. Now, when it came to this delegation, which now appears more of an eyewash because critical questions continue to face this government, which the government is running away from. We keep on writing the LOP of both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha are consistently writing letters after letters, soliciting a special session of the parliament, soliciting, an all-party meeting chaired by the Prime Minister. They continue to evade. Now, just today, an hour ago, Mr. Rahul Gandhi, Honorable LOP of Lok Sabha, has tweeted, and you would have seen, Barkha, that why did our external affairs minister went out and informed Pakistan? He is admitted to it in a bite right after his press conference. And isn't it a crime? Now, these critical questions are facing our government, and the government is putting up this sham of a delegation in which we send 4 names, which the Congress organizations are run on protocol, Barkha. You would agree that what if tomorrow there's an international convention of
But
media outlets, and your channel Mojo Story is asked for nominees. You nominate people, and rather somebody else picks up somebody.
let me answer that with that. Let me answer that with that parallel. If one of my colleagues had been, let's say, on the ground in Jammu, Punjab, Kashmir, covering this story, and then there was a media conference organized on the coverage of the Pahalgam terror attack, and I chose that moment to send my reporter from Chennai, I would be stupid. Right? I would not be rewarding the work of the person who had been on the ground. I would be not rewarding the competence of the person who had shown commitment to the story. So it is a poor analogy. I understand. I don't want to pick on you because you have to defend your
I
party's
would beg to
position.
differ. I would humbly beg to differ and say, I would humbly beg to differ and submit here that you see the difference in what you have just cited and what I am saying is you are sending a delegation on the international front to talk to various stakeholders, various international stakeholders that, by the way, the Modi government has failed to capture. It is a failed example of a foreign policy that not even a single nation came to stand by you unconditionally. That you see, Israel came out and said, well, India is right to defend itself.
Okay.
But
Okay.
China and Turkey came out in the open.
You are entitled. Acha, Mahima ji, there are others also who have to speak, and I want to come in there. I think Rajat had a very brief interjection, and then I want to go to General Katoch and Yashwant and Padma. But I will only say to you, you are entitled, as Rajat just did, to say, listen, our messaging could have been better. We should have been going harder on the route of diplomacy. It could have been in tandem. Right now, diplomacy is leveraging, quite honestly, off the military gains. Let's be very upfront. That is what has happened. But that doesn't mean that you give an opportunity to anybody outside your country right now to call you a divided house. One of the extraordinary, proud moments, I'll always say in Jammu, I saw a home that had been blasted by a Pakistani drone. और उसकी रूफ उड़ गई थी, लेकिन हमारा तिरंगा उस घर पे लहरा रहा था. The family, there it is. That's the picture I took. This image makes me cry. to see that the drone was able to, as it was intercepted, blast the roof of this house, but leave our flag unscathed. This is how I think our country, this should be a metaphor for our country. We can argue some other time. We can pick on each other some other time. We cannot return to partisan politics at this moment. We are still not in some safe, out of the sort of, woods place. The operation is not over. It is a halt. Pakistan could try any number of things. So that is just my very emotional submission. I don't normally get emotional, but I feel emotional about these things. I want General Katoch to come in. Sorry, Rajya, did you have a sentence there you wanted to say?
Yeah,
I saw your hand going up. Yeah. Sorry.
One quick point. First of all, the names that were put out, Mr. Raja Brar, this member of parliament, ask your team to do the research. Pick one tweet that he has done on this. Again, I'll rest my case to your audience there. They understand this. Coming back to this point of Jaishankar ji, the entire Congress party lacks the basic skill of comprehension around what Jaishankar ji was saying, and now they are making a complete issue out of a non-issue. What he said, I knew, you knew that we will only attack the terror infrastructure. Everybody knew. Congress, it was Pakistan. Pakistan which came out and gave a disproportionate response, and they attacked our military establishment. Now, where is the controversy? You don't hunt for a controversy and force fit it. This is the problem. If you don't have anything valuable to add, can't you just shut up for some time? The way Rahul Gandhi went to Bihar, did his business as usual politics. Do that politics. Why do you meddle into affairs which you don't have an understanding of the comprehension skill? I'm minding my words. You party should mind your words.
Okay, let's de-escalate. As to borrow from military, to borrow from our military environment, let's de-escalate. Let's halt hostilities. It's a pause. Let's pause. I want to bring in, I was going to come to General Katoch because I want to explain something here that I think people don't understand. That Director Generals of Military Operations talk through conflict. The hotline is open. They talk through war. There is communication. You cannot surely be accusing your foreign minister of some treason here. I find the issue only completely manufactured. Let's talk about real things. You can talk about why Trump is saying what he's saying. You can talk about why the Western media is biased. And I would take all of those points. There are genuine things to talk about. But since I saw Yashwant raising his hand first, General Katoch, with your permission, I'll just get Yashwant, then come to you, and then Padma. Yashwant, please go ahead.
But I would not have liked to discuss the politics today, given the subject and scenario. But honestly speaking, what has happened from the side of Congress right now doesn't even make a political sense, Barkha. So far in the last a week or 2 week kind of thing, the maximum traction for the Congress or the positivity for the Congress was gained by Shashi Tharoor and Manish Tiwari. Even from the political perspective, you are just throwing away that entire goodwill these two gentlemen have earned for your party by kind of almost looking like you are punishing them something for something good. So that doesn't make sense in any case. Even from the local politics, it doesn't make any sense. Shashi Tharoor, I checked because I don't want, while you were talking, I was looking at what exactly is making sense. Even in Kerala, where the elections are due in next year, Shashi Tharoor is the only Congress leader whose rating is in double figures, in double digits. All other pygmies of the Congress are not even in single digit kind of thing. So I actually, from political point perspective, also it's going above my head right now. But today is not the day where I would like to discuss politics. Kerala tracker, we will discuss it some other day. Let's discuss it.
I will come to the sea water tracker in the next round of questions, Yashwant, just to get first comments here, because something which Mahima raised, General Katoch, Rahul Gandhi has now put it on record, and since he's the leader of the opposition, I think this is an absolute non-issue. And it is very silly for the Congress to pick it. Sorry, mind my words, but I feel very strongly about the military. It's the one thing where I show my partisanship and my emotion. Rahul Gandhi has accused Jaishankar of informing Pakistan at the start of an attack was a crime. I'm reading out Rahul Gandhi's tweet. Everybody please listen, pay attention. Rahul Gandhi says informing Pakistan at the start of an attack was a crime. The External Affairs Minister has publicly admitted that the government of India did it. 1, who authorized it? 2, how many aircraft did our Air Force lose as a result? Now, we are in a very unfortunate moment in Operation Sindoor, where the political unity that we had seen on display, the social unity that we had seen on display is being wrenched open actually with a very, sorry, Mahima, I just cannot agree with this question. I mean, are we really going to seriously discuss this allegation? I want General Katoch to respond. And, this is based on a Jaishankar statement that we told Pakistan that we are only targeting your terror bases. That is his statement. What India is trying to say is that we were never interested in targeting your air bases. That was not part of the plan. If you hadn't sent drones and missiles into our country, we wouldn't have hit you. But you hit us, so we hit you. Till we were targeting your terror bases, that's not an act of war. Americans came in and took out Osama bin Laden from Pakistan. That was not an act of war. So that is what he's explaining, to which Rahul Gandhi, the leader of the opposition, has accused Mr. Jaishankar of, I'll read it again, informing Pakistan at the start of our attack was a crime. Who authorized it, and how many aircraft did our Air Force lose as a result? General Katoch, I'll ask you to respond.
Thank you, Barkha.
Rajat is saying this is treason, and I am saying it's very, very, it's very unfortunate. It is very unfortunate. I don't know what else to say.
If you're allowing intermediate comments, then you should have allowed mine also, because I have a couple of.
I will. Maima, I will.
Maima, just give me 1 minute, ma'am.
Maima, just like General. Maima, this is not.
If you give your comments after you hear me.
Maima,
just hear me out, ma'am. And I'm not taking any.
Maima, I will give you equal time. I promise you. General Katoch, go ahead.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Barkha, I just want to explain a few things, which is very important to understand. Right from the start of Operation Sindoor, firstly, nobody knew when it is going to take place. That security and surprise element was outstanding. Nobody knew, including our foreign diplomats. So, I'll address that issue later. Now, right at the beginning, and I'm telling you from the military perspective, because these things had taken place on the ground, they were told very clearly the objective is limited, that we will take out the terror hideouts and we will not expand we will not escalate the battle further. So we started off with that objective that we are going to take out the terror bases. Now that was the military plan. Now, as soon as we took out those 9 terror bases on the night of 6th, 7th of May, that was the time the DGMO rang up his counterpart. And he told him, we have taken out your targets. These were terrorist targets. We are not going after your military or civilian infrastructure. If you, we will not escalate further. But if you do anything, the response will be massive. Now, that was the messaging given with the hope that it'll stop. That we don't have to go any further. We don't have to get rid of it. Now, what they did was they sent in those drones and they sent in the missiles in the very next night. And when they did that, fortunately, our air defense system, which is the indigenous, the Akash Steel, the indigenous system, it worked beautifully well. Now, everybody knows it's a good system, but ultimately, you have to test it in battle. And when they tested in battle, it worked. And the Pakistanis got much, because the response which we gave after that, we hoping that they'll stop. Now, again, they didn't stop. So when it took place on the 3rd night, we're talking of the night 9th, 10th. Again, they did it. This time when we responded and we destroyed their air assets, on the ground, they had nothing left. And that is the time they panicked and they said no more. So if they could have said that no more earlier, they didn't. If they had said that no more on the first day, it is over. They didn't. And then they said no more and they started crying for a ceasefire. Their DGMO rang up our DGMO and we said, okay, if you don't want to escalate, we are not going to escalate. That was the original plan, 1. Number 2, the question of why our foreign diplomats haven't, listen, 48 hours, 72 hours, nobody knows what is happening. It is very difficult for foreign diplomats to try to convince external powers what the Indian stance is in a 4 days battle, in a 3 days battle. We may like to, whatever it is. I mean, I'm telling you from practical experience, it can't be done.
Also, if I may interrupt on that point, General Katoch, because I was on the ground when all these drones and missiles were coming in, we didn't know necessarily. On the 4th day when the hostilities were halted, in the morning, I thought we were headed for all-out war. I just to Rajat's point, I think it would have been very difficult to message diplomatically in parallel because we didn't know if it was going to end with the attack on the terror bases, whether it was going to go higher, how long it was going to last. So just giving some benefit of the doubt there, but please complete your point.
Yeah. So, at that time I was also on Doordarshan and I told them, I said, listen, we are in a very dicey situation because I was under the impression it is going to stop. But then I was proved wrong on the night, the night of 8th, 9th when it continued. Then I told them on Doordarshan again, I said, if it continues for another 48 hours, it is going to be a full-fledged war or it stops.
Yeah.
I said, there is
Yeah.
no, I said, the way I have read it as a military man, I don't see any other options. If we don't stop, if it doesn't stop within 48 hours, it's a full-fledged war and then all bets are off.
Absolutely.
Otherwise,
Absolutely.
Pakistan still has a choice. I think they took a wise choice, very frankly. There's one more point I want to give.
Yeah.
Just one more
Yeah,
point.
sorry. Yes.
The question is the stance of foreign countries. I would like to make it very clear. It's got nothing to do with the Congress or the BJP or any party, you know. No foreign power will support India. No, not because we are bad or good. We are competitors. We are the ones who will challenge America, Western Europe, Russia, China. Nobody is going to take you. If you were nice and weak and soft, everybody would say, what lovely people you are. Nobody's going to say that. We better learn to stand on our own. No war, whether it's under the Congress leadership or the BJP leadership or anybody or any other leadership. No foreign power will support India. Bharat ko koi madad nahi karega. Ye humko khud karna hai. And that is why it is very important, while political fights must go on as part of a democracy, when national wars are concerned, everybody must fight together, because we require three things in a military combat. I want to make, you've got many large viewers, they must see this. One, you require the political will. Number two, you require a capable military. And three, which is as important as the first two, you require the whole nation behind you. And by whole nation, I mean every single person behind the armed forces. And then you win. Then there's no way you can lose. So this is actually what has happened on the ground, that it is a very short duration thing. Let us not expect miracles in 4 days and say that, okay, everything, the Americans will fall at our feet. It's not going to happen. And they will always be your competitors. They'll be friends where it suits them. Otherwise, they will be competitors. And that is the way life is, regardless of what the situation is. That's my assessment.
I couldn't agree with you more. I wrote the same in the Hindustan Times this morning, saying that two things will not change: Pakistan's perfidy and the West's hypocrisy. I don't expect either to change. Padma, please come in. You've been waiting very patiently. And then Mahima. And then I want Yashwant's C voter has some very interesting 3-4 key points we look at on how people are looking at the armed forces, how people are looking at the ceasefire in quotes, how people are looking at who's our biggest adversary. Is it China or Pakistan? And the answers may really surprise you, Padma. But I want to briefly return, and again, this is really, I couldn't care less about right wing, left wing, BJP, Congress. I care about my country, as we all do. I care about our armed forces. I care about, them standing in the line of fire to defend us. And I think that when we have the leader of the opposition basically accusing the foreign affairs minister of leaking the attack, we hurt our unity. It is a ludicrous, with apologies to Mahima, it is a ludicrous allegation, but it has been made, it will be picked up in Pakistan, and it will be used by them, unfortunately. And I'm not questioning Rahul Gandhi's intent here. I just think it's a really stupid thing to do. Padma.
I totally agree with you. It was absolutely ludicrous. I have a few points. Please bear with me, Barkha. I'll start with what the other speakers said. Mahima ji, from your remarks, it's very sadly obvious that the Congress seems hell-bent on making itself seem ridiculous, and it's still given to party hierarchy, seniority, almost like babudam. Kisko delegation mein bhejna hai, kisko nahi, kaun junior hai, kaun senior hai. This is babudam. This is not a feeling of national pride and unity that the Congress is reflecting. To Rajat, I completely disagree with you, Rajat. I have worked in the highest positions. You don't know me, so I'm introducing myself briefly. In charge of the South Asia Bureau, not in some, sort of lowly positions. And as sole correspondent for more than 35 years across the world, from New York to Germany to India, and with the top publications, I know the inside workings of the international media from within their newsrooms intimately. I can tell you that global media work very differently. They do not invite opinions from Indian leaders, overall from developing countries, which is what they still see us as, let alone, give people columns to write and invite diplomats for opinions and all that, unless it is on subjects on which they have no particular opinion. So there's no question of giving platform to diplomats of our countries, etc., etc. This is not just true of what we imagine are left liberal media. Even conservative media, or so-called conservative political parties across the world, have the same level of distrust as far as India is concerned. So there is little that diplomats around the world could have done, before this military action. Not to mention the fact that the military action itself was successful because it had that element of surprise in it, as General Katoch also pointed out. Now, coming to my example, I mean, for what Barkha mentioned, I have now restricted myself to only speaking on television as and when I'm invited. I will not do print pieces anymore, because Western media during this conflict began to refuse to send writers as senior as I playback, which every writer has a right to see what they're putting out after the editing, after it's been chopped and not change. So that is the reason why I put my foot down. After this long and very successful career, I just simply decided, as far as I'm concerned, and unlike the Congress party, perhaps the nation does come first. I don't really care anymore, and I think television is a healthier medium because one can just express one's thoughts. Now, coming to what Barkha said, Barkha, you're absolutely right. You talked about arrogance, etc., in the Western media. I'll add a few epithets of my own. There is neo-imperialism, and there is an age-old view, and this is very important, because don't forget that the rest of the world is dominated by the two huge religions, Christianity and Islam, number one and number two. And for the Western perspective, we Indians are Hindus, monkey worshipping, elephant worshipping savages with mumbo jumbo and mantras. So how could the rational West, which sees itself as the fountainhead of reasoning, logic, thought, technology, etc., accept that such creatures like us could possibly handle nuclear weapons and even go through sophisticated procedures like warfare? So this is at the root of this Western distrust, and I completely agree with General Katoch. Nobody is going to come to our aid. We are alone in this one. So I'm happy about the forthcoming delegations, but I have zero optimism. We are on our own, because we are seen as a threat because of our success. We are not seen as potential partners. Yeah.
Okay. Everybody has reactions. Please remember, we have to take a time out from our political disagreements to look at Yashwant's findings, which are also very illustrative. But I will allow both Mahima and Rajat to have a response to Rahul Gandhi. If it were anybody else, Mahima ji, I would have ignored it, because I would have said, why should I actually even platform this question right now? But it is the leader of the opposition, and it is, I have to report it. So I'm going to go back to that tweet by Rahul Gandhi, and if we can please bring up the corresponding banner of what he has actually said. Again, Mahima, I beg you to explain to me how this is a question that is valid from any perspective right now. What is the allegation? What is the allegation? What is the allegation?
Before I come to answer your question, I would what I was going to say earlier. Let me just say, see, number one is that if you've got to have a Congress spokesperson, please have a BJP spokesperson to counter me. I don't want dummy political analysts, actual BJP spokespersons on the inside.
Okay, next time we'll do that. All right, next time.
Okay. Please do not let your political analyst fill in the shoes of the BJP spokesperson.
Okay.
Let him do what he does best: analysis. Now, let me come to this. You see that everybody is talking about the unity, the nation's unity. Where did that unity come from, Barkha? When this happened on the April 22nd, the first response of support came from the Congress party. Our leaders came out and said, we stand behind the government. Please go ahead and do what you must do. Whatever you do, we are behind you. We are with you. And what did the government do? The Prime Minister never comes to chair an all-party meeting, which is out of the league in terms of what has been the precedent, what has been the tradition. In previous incidents such as this, the opposition called, which in that case was the BJP, called for special parliament sessions, and they were conducted, and the answers were given to the opposition. Rather than getting into this pettiness of saying that we cannot discuss national security. We do know who hides behind national security to evade from accountability.
Mahima, what is this tweet on our screen? I am asking you, forget BJP. I am asking you, as a journalist who has covered only war and military for nearly 30 years, that has been my primary beat. I ask you this not as a political journalist, I ask you this as a conflict reporter. This tweet by Rahul Gandhi makes zero sense. Ma'am, I never use words like this. It makes zero sense because you're basically implying that the foreign minister of our country has tipped off the Pakistanis. I mean, do you understand the import of what is being said here? Do you understand the import of this?
Barkha, hats off to your resource, and I do really deeply respect you for the resource and for the person that you are, for the journalism that you have embodied all these years. We have seen that very resource of yours being targeted at the wrong hands, and there are those who embody power today, who adorn power today, but what we are seeing is sheer hollowness. Rahul Gandhi's
Ma'am,
tweet is being
huh.
questioned. Allow me. Rahul Gandhi ji's tweet is being questioned today because answers have not been given. There are experts from the army and military. You see, General VP Malik and General retired General Manoj Naravane came out and said that we have lost this chance. I do deeply respect the veteran sitting on your show. I do deeply respect. I bear deep respect for the valor of our armed forces. But I would say I would resonate what General Naravane said when he said that we have almost lost this chance for a third time. Now, the political camaraderie has also seen a steep fall under this regime. You would see that they're asking, I want to come back to the main question of your show today, what you are conducting this show for the nominations. And I want to make this point here, that we responded to their query of nominations, thinking that they're asking earnestly when they were actually asking mischievously. We did not see that coming because we have been standing in
so
solidarity.
has this political tweet, okay, I have to let the others speak, but very briefly, has this political tweet by Mr. Gandhi, which I think is a dangerous tweet, and that's why I have no partisanship here when I'm saying it. I'm really just saying it from my heart. I think this is a dangerous tweet. I would take it down. But is this political tweet because you're angry that the BJP scored a political point by announcing Tharoor before the Congress? Is this in response to that? Why this tweet makes no? Please think. Why is this tweet there? Why? What does this tweet mean? What is this
Let
tweet?
let me respond, if you will. Mr. Gandhi's tweets, this one and all the others. I believe and I see that they are very poised. They are very well evaluated. When he's
I
speaking,
agree. This is the first time he's spoken out of tone, and it's a very odd tweet in
no,
this phase.
then,
In this phase,
then in that
in
case,
this
let's
phase,
play that
this is the
statement of the
first
external
time.
affairs. Why didn't you play out that statement of the external affairs minister? And
I have
please
heard
note
it.
every word he's
Okay,
uttering.
we'll play it out. We'll play it out. I have heard that statement. He said, we told them we only want to target the terror bases. Now, General Katoch has explained at great length. Rajat, let's bring you in, and then I have to look at Yashwant because so much debate around the ceasefire. Yashwant, see what a survey looks at precisely some of those questions. Rajat Sethi, do go ahead. Rajat.
Well, if self goal was an art, then Rahul Gandhi is an artist. I'm not saying out of being a BJP supporter or a Congress supporter. The way Congress party is headed, I'm telling you, this entire country would be obliged that they are shut full and final if they carry on with this. Over the past 7 minutes that I was counting, beyond rambling, we did not hear a single reasoning behind this tweet. What Rahul Gandhi has said, that informing Pakistan at the start of an attack was a crime. What he's trying to say, that Jaishankar has committed a crime which comes under treason. He has done that by telling Pakistan. I mean, you are out of your senses. You've spoken something which I'm not aware of. You should let the public at least put forth the facts and figures that you have in mind before you arrive to that conclusion. Obnoxious tweet, nothing less than that. Now, coming to what Padmaji and Dhruv sir was talking about, and I don't want to get into political debate beyond this, but see, there was an event at Harvard Pakistan conference right after Harvard India conference. I have been an alumnus from Harvard, and I can tell you we put in so much of effort to get that conference put in place. The sponsors of that conference were Lakshmi Mittal Center of South Asia at Harvard. We wrote emails and we created so much of pressure, whatever little bit capacity that we could contribute to. Then there was a Columbia event also. Suddenly you were seeing that a very pro-Pakistan turn of events were happening around campuses, college campuses, as if there was this larger nexus or invisible hands of Pakistan which was prodding up these events. There were alumni of Columbia from India who were writing to the presidents and ensuring that there be parity on what is being discussed and reported by these so-called professors. This is what I'm saying. See, is Dhruv sir and Padmaji trying to say that our bureaucrats in these embassies should fold hands and wait till the narrative is set, all the damage is done? Of course not. You need to do something, right? What is that something? First of all, I said it has to be a perpetual exercise. It should not be a wartime exercise. You have to engage, no matter what, how you break into the boardrooms, you have to put in consistent efforts. You need to find people who are constantly writing, who have that nexus, who can penetrate into the systems. China, of all people, China have put in had so much amount of effort to ensure that pro-China pieces have been written consistently for decades. I can say that because I have read those as case studies. Instances where I know of these instances around the lobbying effort that were put in DC and in the other countries.
Rajat.
To list out the objectives of the war before the war has even started, but they were good 12 days after the terror strike and the war from when India attacked Pakistan. What was happening in those 12 days? That's my simple response. I have questions. I don't know. I have been a campaign manager and I know this is not how campaigns and narratives are set.
Okay, Padma, you've got to hold your horses for just 1 minute, please, because Yashwant has been waiting really for a long time, and I have to get through some of these points. So I want to turn our attention now, Yashwant, because we were just, we got to know a little late that you were coming. I've just taken out some of the main points of your survey, and I am going to start with, of course, can we get the corresponding slides also up? Now, C Voter asked a set of questions to the general public, and this was before the halt in hostilities, loosely called the ceasefire, and after as well. Could we make that slide just a little big, because we really can't see it? I think if you take, yeah. So Yashwant, let's look at the first question. 92.3% trust the military capabilities to protect India. I'm going to need to just get Yashwant. I can't see him. You're going to have to move Yashwant's box up, please, because I can't see Yashwant. Yeah. All right. 92.3% trust the military's capabilities to protect India. Then C Voter goes on to ask, how do you believe the Modi government's handling has been? Now, this is interesting because while the majority is largely satisfied, the numbers are not at the rate naturally that people feel about the military, right? The military is in the 90s and it remains in the 90s. For the Modi government, C Voter finds that before the ceasefire, 68.1% were completely satisfied with the Modi government's handling, and this falls slightly to 63.3%. One important question is for you, Yashwant, at this point, that these numbers were presumably before the two speeches of the Prime Minister. And I kind of think that there could have been a different response after those two speeches. Am I right in that, Yashwant?
Just let me unmute. Yeah, Barkha, you are right. I mean, this was before the Prime Minister's speech, and we'll be coming up the tracker numbers this week to see if the speech, what kind of impact it has. But one interesting thing is that even the numbers which are those who were kind of upset with the ceasefire, so-called ceasefire, a big number of them were actually the BJP and Modi supporters. And it's not that as if they are swinging away from the BJP and swinging away from Modi factor as such, but they are like, they wanted a really, much more aggressive, damage to the Pakistani establishment, army, and everything. So
let me read out that number. In your survey, you found that 29.3, that's almost 30%, did not support the ceasefire, and 21.8% supported it only to some extent. And it is your reading that you think most of these were in fact BJP or Modi fans or Modi supporters.
Yeah, I mean, the number which switched over, particularly saying that we are unhappy that ceasefire happened, big number of that came from the supporters of the Modi, obviously, because they were expecting they were much more bigger aggressive response. And this holding down, as General Saab said, it would have, I mean, post 48 hours, it would have been a full-fledged war, and somehow it was held down in that way. I think people were expecting more. But then what people, you see, our job is somewhere very finely balanced. Our job is to keep on tracking what public wants, and also to keep on understanding what public understands from all these things.
Yeah,
so
correct.
One thing is very clear, Barkha, the army has an unparalleled satisfaction and trustworthiness rating of 90% plus. That is huge. One-way traffic. before the ceasefire. In fact, after the ceasefire, it has gone up,
Correct.
not going down. So there is unwavering support to the army. And it is important to understand, Barkha, because I know the similar kind of number through our other international partners which do the same survey in Pakistan. And Pakistani army has been facing such a huge credibility crisis because of Imran Khan supporters, because of the
Correct.
Pashtuns, because of the even the mullahs sitting in Pakistani Punjab. Everybody was shifting away. Forget about Baluchistan. Baluchistan comes very low in that pecking order about as far as anger with army is concerned. So the Pakistani army's trustworthiness in their own country is no way in comparison to the Indian army's trustworthiness and the kind of support they carry. And it's important to understand, because armies can have the infrastructure and everything, but as General Saab would agree with me, hopefully, the real strength of the army lies in the support of their own countrymen. That's where the real hosla comes in, that this is what they are fighting for. And that is very strongly coming out in these numbers. The same support base is not there for the politicians or political parties or everywhere, which is absolutely fine, which is good, because that's where we stand as a country at this point of time.
Just two other data points before these numbers people may want to comment on. C Voter asked people, who is your biggest threat? Who is the bigger adversary? General Katoch, this will interest you in particular. 51.8% say China is a bigger threat, compared to 20%, I'm rounding it off, for Pakistan. These numbers increased after the ceasefire. China seemed to be the bigger adversary. Pakistan, I guess, seemed to be a vassal state. One more talking point from Yashwant C. Voter survey. 67.5% felt very safe before the ceasefire. This drops slightly to 63.9% after the ceasefire. Yashwant, if you want to quickly comment on these 2 points, and then we'll open it up.
Yeah, on the first point, Barkha, that that China is a bigger threat, that is something which we are used to listen from the strategists, the experts, the columnists, and media at all. And we were thinking that public at large would still be looking at Pakistan as the bigger threat, but it is not. Bigger number of people on the ground, the common man on the street is understanding we do not have two fronts anymore. It is only one front. What we were fighting against on the Western front was actually we were fighting against China. So Pakistan is now treated by the common man as an irritant. It's not even treated as a serious adversary. People understand at large, कोई भी front हो, लड़ हम China से ही रहे हैं. And that kind of clarity to come for the masses is a very interesting phenomena, Barkha, because people who write and understand the things at a strategic level, their understanding is something different, but people at large on the ground, their understanding is a different level. But this gap is reducing and people are understanding what is going on behind the theater, and that's an interesting phenomena for me to observe.
Right. And, I'd be very interested in actually looking at reactions to Trump. This whole sort of mythology that Trump was going to be great for India, and what he's actually
it's gone for a toss.
Yeah, it's gone for a toss. So your next tracker should be very
There
interesting.
Is one question, Barkha, that we asked, which is a very interesting one, that we asked post ceasefire whether for the interest of our own security, do you trust Russia more or do you trust America more? And overwhelmingly, almost like 70% of Indians said they trust Russia more than the US. And that is something which I believe Trump's one tweet has done the damage. After the 2008 123 agreement, the number of American positivity among the Indian public was going up steadfastly. But I think that overexcited, jumping over the gun, whichever way you look at it, that one tweet of Trump has probably done more damage to the image of America among the Indian masses than anything else.
So that is a very, very important point, that an overwhelming number of Indians now trust Russia more than America, according to C Voter. So there's the slide. The slide is on your screen. Thank you. I had almost missed that and you flagged it. Can I, with everybody's permission, play out Donald Trump's latest statement, because it'll give us context to what we've just heard, and then we'll come back for a round of comments. Let's listen in.
A couple of foreign policy successes even right before this trip. You picked up the phone and called two nuclear powers, India and Pakistan, and you got them to step back from the brink. That was a success as you got on the plane heading over here.
A bigger success than I'll ever be given credit for. Those are major nuclear powers. Those are not like a little bit. And they were angry. And the next phase was probably, did you see where it was tit for tat. And it was getting deeper and more missiles. Everyone was stronger. To a point where the next one's going to be, you know what, the N-word. You know what the N-word is, right?
Nuclear.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for the clarification.
I figured you'd want to clean that up. No, it's the N-word. That's a very nasty word, right? In a lot of ways.
Right. So the N word in this context, he means nuclear war. And then he says, I hope you understand. I don't mean it in that way. I mean nuclear war. And nobody gives me credit. And he goes on and on and on and on and on every day. It's like, again, if it was not the United States of America, the president, the most powerful man in the world, you could ignore him. But this gives context to the sea voter finding that an overwhelming number of Indians now place their trust more in Russia than in America. They feel China is the bigger adversary, not Pakistan. Padma, you wanted to come in. Go ahead. Padma.
Sorry, I mean, I had my finger up because I don't want to lose the thread of thought. It was basically to react to something that Rajat said. Rajat, you were speaking of, Harvard University students and professors and all these guys. Look, I mean, these are not India's diplomats whom you referred to earlier. You were referring to the fact that India's diplomats abroad had not done enough to put across India's picture, that they had not lobbied enough. Secondly, you're talking about students' movements, newsletters, flyers, interactions in universities, demonstrations, etc. That is very, very different from the newsroom of an international media concern, where the editors and the proprietors have absolute control, and they try to assert that control only when it comes to countries which are of no great interest to them, such as India. Thirdly, you mentioned China's outreach in the international media as a point of comparison. Rajat, you have to realize that there is a direct correlation between trade relations, trade dependencies, and the kind of media exposure that a country receives in the Western media. China is not seen, as I said earlier, with great irony, as a monkey worshipping, somehow illogical, mysterious Hindu country that India is literally seen as, so as a highly developed, we are not seen as China is seen. China is seen as a highly developed nation, on which all those
So in short, you don't think diplomats could have done much more?
I think the diplomats could not have done much more in the media. I'm sure there were back channel communications and back channel lobbying, which obviously remain back channel. One final point, Barkha, about the tweet. I think Mr. Gandhi's tweet, frankly, reeks of libel. It should attract libel, and I wouldn't be surprised if it attracts a few lawsuits. Thank you, Barkha.
Yes, we will get back to the tweet, but let's also pay attention to what we've seen in Yashwant's survey. General Katoch, do you have any thoughts? And I'll come back. We'll end with thoughts on Rahul Gandhi's tweet. General Katoch, do you have any thoughts on Rahul Gandhi's tweet? Because he's basically insinuating that the foreign minister gave away the war plan. That's what the tweet means to me.
No, I mean, he's entitled to his opinion. He's the LOP. My view is that right from the beginning, before we had fired the first bullet, the aim was to ensure that there's no escalation. So after as I mentioned in my opening remarks, and this is confirmed information, please take it from me. As soon as we had hit those targets, which were only the terrorist targets, we didn't want to go further. But we made it very clear to them, if you respond, then the hitting will be massive. And you saw that play out. There's one point, this question of China and Pakistan and all that, let's face it. And I want to give an example. That very famous that journalist Aisha Siddiqa from Pakistan.
Yes.
Siddiqa, you will be knowing her. And she's staying in London. She's not too welcome in Pakistan anyway.
Correct.
So when she had come, I think 2 years or so, I had met her here. And we had a small interaction with her. And I asked her, what is your opinion? Because she was coming to India after about 8 years. So I asked her, what is the difference which you have seen in India then and now? And you know what she told me? She says that time Pakistan was relevant. Today, in the Indian street, nobody talks of Pakistan. It is irrelevant. That is the change. And she told me, I'm not saying it. So when she was speaking to people, I mean, there was no call. So Pakistan is irrelevant. I think one of the reasons for Pahalgam was because they were irrelevant. They wanted to get back relevance. But I think that China is going to be the main threat, and we have to be focused on that. That's my.
I think that's a great point. I said to Hina Rabani Khar on that Piers Morgan show, I said we would love to ignore Pakistan, If we could ignore Pakistan permanently, we would love to ignore Pakistan. If it were not for terrorism, we would simply ignore Pakistan. So Yashwant's data really is interesting in that context. If we can, bring up that banner that an overwhelming number of people now see China as a threat. And let's not forget that China was the battlefield the host in the battlefield, providing all of the weapons to Pakistan in this in Operation Sindoor. All right, Yashwant, I will come to you. We have to start taking last comments, and I'm sure Mahima and Rajat will want to come back to Rahul Gandhi's tweet. I'll bring you in. The big takeaway from your survey right now, again, it was after the ceasefire, but before Modi's two speeches.
I think the big takeaway is that number one, that I could not find, Barkha, any variation or deviation as far as the demographics are concerned, the geographies are concerned, or political support system is concerned. You remember whenever we do other surveys and many sort where political thing is there, we always find contrasting opinion on the political line, while the opposition supporters are saying something and the BJP supporters are saying something else. But in this particular round, we have found there is no difference in whichever way you look at it. People across India, across the geographic, across the political ideas, have almost said the same thing. And so that is something which is very heartening for me to see. No matter what people on the national security are saying at this exactly the same thing. The people at public's education about the thing is amazing. Their understanding of the things is amazing. And they are almost looking at the things as clear as can be. And as you said, we would love to ignore Pakistan. If there was no terror attacks from that side, actually we were so busy with our own economy and ourselves. यार हम लोगों को जो है मार्स जाना है और बाकी इसरो के मिशंस बनाने हैं, रॉकेट बनाने हैं, हमारे टाइम नहीं है, and unless somebody else is coming and throwing something at us, we are not bothered. So that the fact that Pakistan was getting irrelevant, I think I agree with General Saab that Pahalgam was also one of the things that they were getting irrelevant, and they were trying to figure out something to define themselves again. Because the problem with Pakistan, Barkha, as you know, is in their definition. Pakistan's, as a Pakistani friend once told me, was Pakistan is, what India is not. And that cannot be a definition of any nation state. So I guess that they have their own problem. God bless them with their own problem. We are not responsible for their problem. But if they throw their problem at us, it becomes our problem.
And one of the sort of very heartening things of this operation, which General Katoj said India did not intend to escalate, but then we were drawn into this 4-day war, is that Made in India beat Made in China, at least the Made in China that was provided to Pakistan. So that whether it was the Akash system or all of it, it's again a kind of convergence of Russia, Israel, and Made in India weaponry that we saw from our side. All right.
And one thing, Barkha, that I think everybody also understands this thing, that nobody is going to stand and support us. Nobody. We are alone in this fight. And General Saab, I totally agree with you. Not only me, and I can assure you, we have posted this question time and again into the publics. Huge majority of Indians also understand this very clearly, that we are going to fight this alone war. We are only going to be together and fight and win this. We should not be looking at the West or anything. I mean, the way we have been probably ignoring Pakistan, we should also start ignoring the Western press and everybody out there. It's high time that we should just find our own way out.
Right. I want to come back to last comments, Mahima Singh and then Rajat Sethi. Mahima, go ahead. I can't hear, ma'am. Now I can. Now I can, ma'am.
I would first like to respond to Padma, who said that this might attract few libels and lawsuits. Haven't we seen the Honorable LOP being targeted and framed and then being acquitted, exonerated? And so the same pattern may repeat. But he will continue to raise tough questions to this government that has called a meeting of only NDA chief ministers on the 25th, Barkha. I want to conclude my remarks with two questions.
That is not correct. That is not correct either, by the way. I'm very happy to say that is not correct.
Let me just end with my two questions. Number one is, where are the 4 perpetrators, the main actors of the Pahalgam attack? The government may continue its eyewashes, but we want to know where are those 4 perpetrators. And the second one is that why is the government not making its intentions clear by acting mischievously as it did in calling these nominations and then acting otherwise as they did earlier in the case of chief election commissioners and otherwise. We have seen this government conduct itself in the same manner, eyewashes after eyewashes. So these are the questions I want to leave your show with.
Okay.
And I think that your viewers would ponder upon that. They're already seeing this government for what it is.
Rajat, I'll just add a question of my own. And again, I know you're not a government spokesperson or a BJP spokesperson, but yes, the BJP did, after near very sober messaging, they've had their share of coarse loudmouths, like the BJP minister in Madhya Pradesh, who made a terrible comment on Colonel Sophia Qureshi, and the courts hauled him up. I remember Yashwant reposting I was somewhere in the battlefield and beach mein signal aaya, and I saw Yashwant criticizing the BJP's Twitter handle for making a political comment in the middle of battle, saying this is not the time. This is the time to rise above all this. So to you, Mahima, all of us, when we see wrong, we do criticize it, and that's why I gave you these 2 examples. Now, Rajat, I'm giving you the closing word. We started to discuss the multi-party delegation. In the middle, we had Rahul Gandhi's tweet, which kind of derailed us, and we have Yashwant's findings. Your last word.
See, these loudmouths within the BJP, they do huge disservice. Whatever difference between the BJP and the Congress is, they try and remove those wedges. BJP stands very next to Congress with these comments. And I think BJP would do a lot of service to their own party if they sack these people. I will not mollycoddle and try and frame it in a way which sounds more diplomatic. It is as it is. Ab Twitter hai to kuch tweet karna hai. That should not be the logic of the main tweet that Yashwant ji has actually tweeted. Keeping quiet is also a virtue. You should know when to speak. And this is my only message to Rahul Gandhi also. You are not entitled to your opinion, by the way. You are entitled to putting facts. Your LOP, your office is sponsored by taxpayers like us. You are not there because of family fiefdom over there. You are representing voices of me also. And what I expect of you is to put facts. Let the courts reach to a conclusion.
Yeah,
I would just...
All right. Yeah. And thank you. I think it would have been very good had the BJP taken action against that Madhya Pradesh minister instead of the courts. I hope they sack him still. As for Rahul Gandhi's tweet, I very rarely comment on political parties in a partisan way on this show, but that tweet is not permissible in a country that is only just emerging from a state of war, and basically accusing the foreign minister of treason, of tipping off the war plans to the adversary. I was going to close, Padma. I saw your hand up. Do you have a brief interjection?
Very brief, very brief. I just want to say about what we came to talk about, these delegations going. I'm happy, but no optimism. It's a transactional world today. I don't think anything's going to make any difference at all. Let's shape. I think what India should do is shape a clear, definitive identity for itself and no longer sit on fences. For instance, we're talking to the Taliban. That's actually a welcome move. Engaging with the Taliban, engaging with countries that have their own set of problems with Pakistan. In fact, this is precisely what China does. It doesn't get entangled between Western liberal ideas of what an ideal society should look like in somebody else's backyard, but it engages to get what it wants. There's not a lot else I want to learn from China, but this focus on its own development and prosperity while ignoring the noise and ignoring a Western discomfiture and noise coming from there is certainly something that India should make its own.
Okay, we leave it there. Let's return to a note of not optimism in terms of what we expect from the West, but in terms of the fact that our democracy is mature enough that notwithstanding some kerfuffles, we are sending a united political delegation all across the world, which makes its own statement. Whether the world wants to read that statement or not, I don't know. But we derive strength from making that statement. We leave it there. Mahima Singh, Rajat Sethi, Padma Rao, General Katochi, Yashwant Deshmukh, thank you. And to our audience, thank you. Have a great weekend and see you soon. It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.